Slouser here, and today I will be doing something different. Instead of the wars, instead of the guides, I'm going to discuss which 5 factions I think should be in Call of Dragons. Faction number 1. I originally was going to say dwarves, but as you can see, dwarves are in the game right now. Currently we're fighting them. They're the new darklings, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the season 2, they're going to be a faction. So instead of dwarves, I'm going to go with dark elves. Every fantasy world, whenever I watch a game, there's usually the elves and the dark elves. We've already got the elves, so why not have the dark elves? So that way, there'll be 2 good side and 2 bad side. Even though the orcs, the humans and elves are working together, but in most fantasy worlds, the humans, elves are on the good side and the orcs on the bad side. So we should balance it out with having another dark side team. I think dark elves would be cool because they'll probably be better at magic, since they will use things like probably blood magic or rituals. I don't know. Every fantasy has their own version of dark elves, but they tend to be better with magic as they do the more darker stuff. That's why they're called dark elves. Plus, I feel elves are very popular in Call of Dragons. It's because of their unit types. They have flying cavalry. That's amazing. They have archers on cavalry. Amazing. But their mage aren't the best. Again, going with what I said, maybe the dark elves could focus more on magic and infantry, while the normal elves focus more on the marksman and the cavalry. Faction number 2. This one I think would be a great idea, but it might be hard to implement. Shapeshifters or druids, if they're the ones who shapeshift. I think you could do an animal for each unit type and it would be amazing. For example, flyers could be eagles, infantry could be elephants or bears, cavalry could be cheetahs or lions. For mage or marksmen, I guess things with venom like snakes or spiders. It would just be such a great idea to implement animals as units. I mean, they've already got pets. Now imagine a whole army full of animals. I actually think it would be probably the most popular and used faction, because again, like, imagine an army of animals. How sick would that be? Now, would they do this? I don't think so, but I wouldn't say 100% no, since they do have pets. So you never know. And it is a fantasy world. There are, for example, in World of Warcraft, the droids or druids, they can shapeshift into animals. So you never know. Faction number 3. Now this one, it would require Call of Dragons or Lilith to invest some money. I would personally love Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings. They were my favorite unit type. I love the armor, I love the weapons. Whenever I played Lord of the Rings Battle for the Middle-earth 2, they were my go-to army. I just loved them. And we've already got elves, we've already got humans, we're most likely gonna get dwarves, we've got orcs, kind of. So if they had to pick someone from the Lord of the Rings, Uruk-hai, man, that shit would be amazing. And why not? Imagine getting a Lord of the Rings faction. That would bring in a lot of new players, the Lord of the Rings fans. Then they could even, if they got the rights to some Lord of the Rings characters, they could bring in some heroes, which I'll talk about at the end. But yeah, Uruk-hai, they already have very similar cavalry in the Orcs army, because I'm pretty sure Uruk-hai had dogs or hyenas, giant hyenas. I don't know the animals, but they had beasts and they were riding them. I just think it would honestly be amazing, and they would be 100% my go-to army again. Faction number 4. Another bad one, and because I was talking about Lord of the Rings, goblins. They already have Craig, who is a goblin, so they could make their own faction with them. And I always wanted this. If they had mages, they could be imps. I don't know if they're in the same family, if they're in the same family tree, but they look similar because they're both small and got those pointy ears and stuff like that. So I can imagine mage being imps. Yes, the orcs already have goblin flyers, or flying on dragons, but I still think they could then think of something else for the goblins. Maybe instead of flying on dragons, maybe they just have flying imps as well, because again, they can. I just think goblins would be pretty cool. I think they'll be popular, and they'll probably be the funniest. Maybe because what I do love about Call of Dragons, they do try to bring personality and lore. They don't just make an army and that's it. Not like Rise of Kingdoms. I loved the Rise of Kingdoms commanders because they have history, they're real figures, but they had no personality. You know, you click them, they'll just say one thing and movement, and that was it. But in this game, they actually try to put an effort. So I think they can make the Goblin faction the most funniest. They could add some comedy and humor, and I think it'll get a lot of people liking them. Now, for the 5th and final faction, the Undead. I think what I'm about to say could make that idea amazing. Picture this: infantry, undead orcs; cavalry, undead elves; flyers, undead celestials; marksmen, undead. Doesn't matter. The point is, imagine they used one of each of the factions, or obviously some of them would have to have two, unless dwarves are in by that time. That could be so sick. Of course, they would have to have some drawback, because that would be amazing. Imagine they used the best units of each faction. They would have to have some sort of negatives, so maybe less HP, which is a big deal. Even if it's like 2% less HP, that would be massive. But it balances out because they would have amazing units, but then they have to have something bad. It doesn't have to be HP, but it makes the most sense since they're the undead. They shouldn't have HP. I got the idea because of World of Warcraft. I only really have two references, Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft. I know there's many fantasy things out there like Diablo. Technically, you could say Harry Potter since it's magic. And I know some of you might be thinking, oh, where's the gnomes or where's the Taurens? Husk is pretty much a Tauren, so they could easily bring him in. And they probably will, to be honest. I can't imagine them making a hero for a specific race, but they're not bringing in their faction. But this is a top 5 of who I would like. Oh, I forgot to mention, this was in no order. But if I had to choose the order, number 1, Uruk-hai, and number 2, Undead. Number 3, the Shapeshifters. Now, would they do any of these ideas? I can see the Goblins. I'm confident in that, again, of what I just said. They have a Goblin hero, so they could. And as I mentioned, for heroes, I don't know the hero's name from World of Warcraft, but I know some from Lord of the Rings. Now, for World of Warcraft, they should definitely pay Blizzard or Activision some money to get cameos from them. Because again, if you can get a character from a big franchise like World of Warcraft, that will bring in a huge amount of fans and new players. And that's what they want. New players equals more money. But for Lord of the Rings, I could list loads of them. But I'm gonna name just one, because it'll probably be expensive to get any of those characters to cameo in the game. The number 1 pick would be Gandalf. I think he would be a huge fan favorite. And since mages are probably the most used unit, you see where this is going. He would probably make so much money, because not only would the fans love him, he's very popular, but he would be very used since he is mage. Yeah, you could have Aragorn or Legolas, or bring in Sauron or someone cool. But I think in terms of popularity and what makes the most sense, Gandalf would be, it will be the next level. Would they have the money to invest in him? I think they would. This game or the company makes so much money from Rise of Kingdoms and Call of Dragons now. I can't see why they couldn't. I hope they do, and I hope they do any of these factions, because it would honestly bring the game to the next level. Now, I know I've missed out a lot of potential heroes who could be in the game, but that's where you come in. Let me know, or the other viewers know, what heroes you would like in this game. Obviously, they have to hit the criteria. You can't be just saying Luke Skywalker. Yeah, it's technically in a fantasy world, but it's in the far future sci-fi. You have to make it fit the category. And same with factions. Who would your top 5 be? Or what would be the number 1 faction you would love in this game? So I've tried to keep this video as short as possible. I don't want to drag on because I can talk for ages. And I don't think you really want to keep on watching Dragon Trial. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all my content and to be updated when I live stream. With that being said, I hope you have a good day. Slauza is out.